Hi, this is apacella, and I'm standing on Brook Park Road in Fairview Park. So for those of you familiar with Cleveland, I'm right next to the 101st Bomber Group restaurant, so that's a kind of a local landmark that most people know where it is. So these buildings, I'm actually standing in front of these two buildings, they are right next to that restaurant. And these buildings made news this past week when it was announced that they are going to be redeveloped. So interesting history, but before I get into that, let me talk about what's going to be here. So this building right here, 168,000 square feet, is going to be redeveloped into over 100 apartments, 120 apartment units. And that building right there, the smaller one, 48,000 square feet, is going to be redeveloped into a 59-suite boutique hotel. So now let's talk about what these buildings used to be. They were built 1964, and they were built by NASA. So NASA Glenn, the research center, is right across the way there. You can kind of see it right over there. That's a NASA Glenn Research Center. And so when the US was in the space race in the 60s and 70s, these buildings were instrumental. So the larger of the two buildings held about 800 engineers, and the smaller of the two buildings held another 300 engineers. So 1,100 engineers were here at this site working on the space program, the space race. So this building, if you look at it from the air, is shaped in the letter K, John F. Kennedy. That building, if you look from the air, shaped like an L, Robert Lewis, who was director of aeronautical engineering for NASA at that time. A couple other interesting tidbits about these buildings. So a lot of people say, because we are right across, as I spin around here, you can see the airport control terminals. We are right across. We are almost on the tarmac. The only thing separating us from the tarmac is Brook Park Road from Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. So people say, well, wait a second, how, don't you going to hear planes, jet planes taking off and landing all day? These buildings have glass. It's called polar pane. It was a patented technology in the early 60s. It was a very, very early double pane window. Not only is it double pane, but each pane of glass is about 1 inch thick, and there's a 3-inch air buffer in between each pane filled with some kind of deadening argon gas. I've been in these buildings. I can tell you it is whisk required. These buildings are on the National Registry of Historic Places for the national parks. They were put on a couple years ago. So a lot of interesting history on these buildings. It'll be fascinating. Like I said, I've been in these buildings, very circa 1960s, Mad Men-esque. I think they could be knockout apartments and hotels. I think it's a great adaptive reuse. It'll be very interesting to see how this pans out over the next coming year or two as these buildings are truly redeveloped. So now you have seen what I see at PVC. Hope you have a great weekend and a profitable week ahead. Thanks.